Hi everyone, I'm Zach Reinhart, here to review the new Never Young Beach album, A Good Time. Never Young Beach is a 5-piece indie rock band from Tokyo, Japan, and this is their third studio album. And for once, this is a band that I'm actually familiar with all of their past work. Never Young Beach has, over the few years that they've been together, made a decent name for themselves by being somewhat of a unique sounding band in the kind of indie pop and indie rock scene in Tokyo. They have a very summery, tropical island kind of sound to them that no other band is really doing quite like they are. And they have a great, really tight rhythm section and an interesting approach to writing for the 3 guitars that they have that really gives them somewhat of a unique sound. I was a fan of their prior 2 albums, so I was definitely looking forward to what they would put together here on this new one. And I've got to say, they're just getting better with age. This album kicks off with the track Natsu no Doki Doki, which is a fun, bubbly, upbeat track that really plays to Never Young Beach's strengths. It has some kind of Beach Boys-y falsetto backup vocals and some very slick, catchy guitar lines all over this thing. They use their guitar section well, as they often do. Abeyuma's kind of low, smooth vocal tone sounds really great on this song, and the production is really on point as well. This song is really exactly what I've come to expect and really would want out of a Never Young Beach album. It's fun, it's summery, and it's easy to listen to, but it's also somewhat kind of rhythmically complex and performed really well. The rhythm section especially, but also the guitars are just super in the pocket, and it's just a super slick, very professional sounding performance. Never Young Beach pulls this upbeat, summery style off with similar ease on the 3rd track, Kimochi-ii Kaze ga Fuitan desu, which has an extremely lively and tight rhythm section, some very catchy lead guitar lines, and one of the best choruses on the whole album. Never Young Beach really shows off their kind of jigsaw puzzle-like guitar writing on the track Shiroi Hikari, and in order to really get this point across, I think we're going to need some visuals. Okay, calm down everybody. It's just some sheet music. We're going to make it through this, I promise. You don't need a PhD in music theory to understand this, I swear. Okay. So this is the intro, the first 17 bars to the song Shiroi Hikari by Never Young Beach. It's got, as you can see, 3 electric guitars, an electric bass guitar, and a drum set. So I want to show you here how interlocked the guitar parts are on this song. So immediately obvious to me, at least, and I'll kind of outline this. There's these big open empty spots where nothing is happening. You know, this is only takes up half of the measure. And so what they do is they alternate which guitar is kind of in the lead. It starts off with this guitar part here as being kind of the lead part. This dun 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 ascending chord progression. And then you've got this little low rhythm guitar and the bass. And but then that all kind of stops. This all cuts out. You get this big empty spot here where nothing is happening. And there is stuff happening up here, but it's just one chord being kind of held. So there's still a lot of space here. And then they use that space to put this little little catchy guitar line, little lead line here. But then that cuts out and it alternates back onto these other parts, and really this kind of rhythm guitar part and the bass take the spotlight here with this ba-da, ba-da, kind of lurching rhythm that's done mostly in unison. Even the drums are doing the same exact rhythm along with everything. And then as it goes on, they kind of alternate even further. You get an even bigger gap here whereas before you had this little dun dun dun. Now you don't have that, and it's just this rhythm guitar part, really, and the bass. And then after those play, it comes back in with this big A chord that held, and then, this guitar line again, this lead guitar line. And then that cuts off, and then finally this top guitar part gets the spotlight with this dun da 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 dun da 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 little chord embellishment, which is actually a callback to this first measure here, because it's the same chords, that dun dun dun, except it's backwards. So it starts on this high A and then goes down to this B minor. And I just really want to emphasize all this empty space, right? Like, they don't have the guitars playing just because they need them playing. It's a big team effort from the three guitars and the bass to make this kind of rhythmic tapestry of like melodies and rhythms kind of swapping between the guitars, and it's constantly changing which guitar is in the spotlight. And this is just a really solid example of the interesting like songwriting stuff that Never Young Beach does. Their guitars during these sections play less of like there's a lead guitar and then there's a rhythm guitar and another rhythm guitar or something. They don't really do that. Rather, they have all three of the guitars act as one kind of unit that has to work together to build this one bigger piece from the three guitars, and it's really interesting and fun to listen to. And I'm now going to play a clip of the intro to this song alongside the music here, the sheet music. So really just kind of watch as the instruments go by, and watch how this space is used, right? Like, the instruments aren't all constantly playing. They're just swapping off so that each instrument can take a turn being in the spotlight. And it's really interesting way to write for three guitars. But let me zoom in here a little bit, and sorry if I was zoomed out there. And let's give this thing a listen. See, that wasn't so painful. We made it through. So, Never Young Beach uses that kind of jigsaw puzzle-like method of guitar writing throughout a lot of their songs, and it's really the crux of what makes their songs entertaining. It makes their songs super rhythmic and kind of just bubbly and really bouncy, and very fun to listen to just because of how tight and well performed these very interesting kind of interwoven guitar parts are. And when they don't really pursue that jigsaw puzzle-like approach to writing for their guitars, their songs start to sound a little bit like bland indie pop. Case in point, track 8, Shirley. Now this track has a tight groove and good production, and the performances are really on point as always. But songwriting-wise, this is just a really kind of typical indie pop track that any band could have come out with, really. It doesn't scream Never Young Beach to me, and it comes off as really kind of bland in comparison to how fun some of the other tracks are on here. And as a result, it's a real kind of disappointment in the track listing. To a lesser degree, I feel similarly to track 2, Nankasa, which is a little bit more up Never Young Beach's alley, but is still a bit bland and doesn't really use its three guitar parts to its full potential. But the album does close out very strongly on track 9, Umibe no Machie. This track is just everything that's good about Never Young Beach. It has Great, catchy guitar lines, a really great chorus, a lively, upbeat, and very tight rhythm section. There's really not much to complain about on this track at all. They pull off this kind of spacier sound on the chorus pretty convincingly, and it ends really nicely with this little guitar melody that they showed briefly at the very beginning of the track, and they bring back at the end to close it out, and it ends on kind of a chord that you weren't expecting, but still resolves rather nicely, and it's a really interesting kind of end to the song and to the album. So overall, I'm really loving this album a lot. It's fun and upbeat and summery, and there are a few disappointments in the track listing, but even those are performed really well, have great production, and if you're not as bothered by some a little blander songwriting as I am, then those tracks might not bother you at all. This is a really solid indie pop and indie rock release, and Never Young Beach is still doing pretty great with their sound, and they're still finding interesting ways to use their instrumentation, and I'm really always impressed with how well written their guitar parts are. As a guitarist myself, that's kind of, it's kind of like porn for me, songwriting porn. And yeah, I'm feeling an 8 out of 10. I'm liking this album a lot. There are a couple disappointments on the track listing, but overall, very solid release from Never Young Beach, and I'm looking forward to whatever they put out next. So yeah, that's me. New Never Young Beach album. It's called A Good Time, and it is a good time. And I'll see you guys next week for another review. Peace.